Okay, let's run a thought experiment. It's a little terrifying, but it's also absolutely fascinating. What if the engine of our entire world just switched off?
I mean, really imagine it. In a single, silent instant, every drop of oil, every lump of coal, every cubic foot of natural gas on this planet, poof, it's gone. What happens in those first few seconds? The first few minutes?
The stakes here really couldn't be higher. Thinking about this scenario forces us to imagine the collapse of the most complex civilization ever built. This is about so much more than just the lights going out.
See, we have to understand that fossil fuels are so much more than just, well, fuel. They're basically the metabolism of modern life. Think of it like this. They're condensed sunlight, the stored up energy from millions of years of ancient life that we've used to build literally everything around us. They power our society at its very core.
So, with that fuel source gone, that first day would be this incredible cascading failure, starting with the one thing we all take for granted: electricity. The speed of this breakdown is just staggering. It's a domino effect on a global scale, and it happens fast. Within minutes, not hours, minutes, the entire global power grid collapses. A few hours later, clean water stops flowing from our taps, and the entire transportation network just seizes up.
And the reason for that massive blackout? It's pretty simple, actually. Over 80%, think about that, 80% of all the electricity on Earth comes from burning fossil fuels. So when that vanishes, cities from New York to Beijing are plunged into an absolute profound darkness. Hospitals might switch to backup generators, but what are those generators running on? They'd run dry in hours.
And on the ground? Well, the silence would be absolutely deafening. All 1.4 billion cars, trucks, and buses in the world would just coast to a stop, stranded right where they are. That constant hum of traffic that's the background noise of our lives, gone.
But the sky, that's where it gets truly terrifying. The roughly 100,000 commercial flights that take off every single day would suddenly lose power. Those planes would become nothing more than very heavy gliders. Our global network of travel and transport would literally fall out of the sky.
So what we're describing here is the entire global economy having a seizure. The arteries of globalization, all those cargo ships, trains, and trucks, they just clot up. Supply chains wouldn't just be broken, they'd become these silent graveyards of steel.
Okay, so that's the initial shock of the first 24 hours. But after that, the deeper, more systemic unraveling of society would begin. This is where the question of survival itself really comes into play. You see, the foundation of any civilization is its ability to feed itself. And our modern agricultural system is, and I mean this literally, built on fossil fuels. Tractors run on diesel. Irrigation pumps run on electricity. And maybe most critically, the very nutrients in our soil, we create them using natural gas. This all comes down to a single, incredible industrial process. It's called the Haber-Bosch process. It uses natural gas to pull nitrogen out of the air and turn it into the fertilizer that is responsible for feeding about half of the world's population. Without it, global food production would just collapse, leading to famine on a scale we can't even imagine.
But here's the part that I think blows most people's minds. It doesn't stop with food and energy. Fossil fuels aren't just something we burn. They're the actual raw material, the feedstock, for over 6,000 everyday products. The aspirin you take, the plastics in your phone, the sterile medical supplies in a hospital, every single one of those things starts its life as a hydrocarbon. Industry would just stop.
And this brings us to our cities. They're these incredible marvels of logistics, right? But they're completely dependent on constant streams of food, water, and energy flowing in. You cut those streams, and our urban centers would quickly become uninhabitable death traps, all within a matter of weeks as public services fail completely. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is a total catastrophe, but surely there's a silver lining for the environment, right? Well, it's a lot more complicated and a lot more paradoxical than that. You get this really strange paradox. On the one hand, yeah, the skies over polluted cities would clear up almost overnight as our carbon emissions drop to zero. But on the other hand, a whole new set of environmental nightmares would begin. Waste treatment plants would fail, releasing raw sewage and toxins directly into our rivers and lakes. And all that carbon dioxide we've already pumped up there, that doesn't just go away. The CO2 concentration would stay right where it is, above 420 parts per million. and it would continue to trap heat and change our climate for centuries to come, long after the last engine has gone silent. So, if humanity somehow managed to survive this, what would that new world even look like? How would we begin to rebuild from the ashes of our fossil-fueled civilization?
Well, the new world would be defined by one thing: energy scarcity. Life would shrink. It would become hyper-local. Survivors would have to become scavengers, using the bones of the old world to build a new one, piecing together small-scale solar, wind, and water power systems from whatever they could find.
And this would force a profound, total shift in our entire philosophy. The illusion of boundless progress and endless growth, which, let's be honest, was only ever possible because of cheap, dense energy, that would be shattered. In its place, a new worldview might emerge, one where success isn't measured by growth, but by sustainability. Our story would shift from one of expansion to one of simple endurance. When you step back, you realize our entire history is tied to energy. You could really say that the story of humanity has always been the story of fire, all the way from the first spark that lit a dark cave to the last flame of an oil field burning out beneath a setting sun.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty unsettling question to think about. When you look at everything we've built, everything we've achieved, how much of that progress is truly our own, and how much of it is simply borrowed from a burning geological past?